Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live session at Microsoft Security Hero community, your community. So, my name is Saidol, and I'm welcoming you, all of you, that you're in the live session or you are going to watch this recorded session on our YouTube channel and other channels that we have. So, today we are going to have a very interesting. I'm pretty much looking forward to be on this session, host this amazing session that we have today. It's going to be a combination of AMA style session, and I'm sure that you are going to have a lot of questions from our amazing speaker. So today we are going to dive into really exciting topic, how AI is reshaping the way we manage device and moving from traditional control to more intent-based intelligence and automated experience. And honestly, this is one of those areas where things are evolving so fast and basically increasing a lot of demand of how to use that. And let's say it's the feature of the IT, and basically it's happening right now. And I'm really happy to be joined by Christiaan Brinkhoff, someone who is pretty much involved and forefront of all the modern endpoint management, Windows 365, AI driven workspace, and also all the innovation around this kind of thing. So this session is going to be a fully interaction, so we'll keep it conversational and a lot of fun around that, of course, and definitely a lot of practical stuff that we are going to have. So with that said, I'm going to bring up my amazing friend Christiaan. Hello, Christiaan.
Hi, thanks for having me. Such a great
Yeah,
intro.
welcome to Microsoft Security to your stage, man. It's really nice to have people like you on this stage and get a lot of information from you.
Yeah, no, first of all, I would like to thank you for doing these initiatives because it's just remarkable. Of course, I always say that community is great as a whole and it feels like a family, but it's people like yourself that keeps this community in a good shape. So we really want to say thank you for doing this as an MCT, as an MVP as well. Sometimes we forget about that there's time as well being kind of you need to prepare for these shows and such, and everybody loves it to watch it, but there's also, like, of course, the investment there. So really, yeah, respect the work you've been doing, and
Thank
looking
you so
forward to
much.
the conversation here.
Yeah, it's amazing. We love and we're proud of our community. We are almost 7,000 people together across all the platforms that we have, and we're always bringing amazing speakers, individuals like you, to make sure those kind of that are watching these sessions are going to take something for their life, for technical life, or for some kind of things that they can use in their daily usage. So it's all about you and today and how much we are going to learn from you. So let's start with the very first question. Who is Christiaan? What are you doing? And please share us about your life and also the AI things around that.
Yeah, that's great. I bet we will have a lot of fun talking about AI revolution, the evolution, how computers work, and how management is changed or changing to a more like AI driven, AI enabled kind of concept, and how UI is gonna kind of fade more to the background. But before we jump into that, so yeah, I'm Christiaan Brinkhoff, you said, and I've been in this industry and space for like two decades or so. I've been starting in this space as yeah, just an help desk engineer. I'm saying just, I'm not like downplaying. It's a great responsibility and role, but it's kind of always that climbing the ladder role, in my opinion. If you start there, you kind of learn about what's all happening in the field and kind of the structure, but as well the complaints and the issues, the tickets, and all these things. So I still think that that's the best kind of part to start introducing yourself into IT. But then ever since moved fast after a year into system engineering, architecting, and then eventually that like consultancy roles, and started my own freelance company back in 2016, and did like projects kind of in Europe as my own company. But I was kind of a little bit at the time looking around, like, what's my next big step? And I was like doing a lot of Microsoft Office 365 back in the days, and cloud migrations, lift and shift. And I started sharing my knowledge, like what I learned, like through my blog, and then as part of, and you notice as well, as part of your blog, people like to kind of see these things and they learn and they respect that you wrote your thoughts in a blog, and then they implemented it at their company, and then they get a head start in solving challenges for their company or product kind of challenges they face. And then slowly you get introduced in all these user groups, and then user group becomes an event, and an event becomes a big conference, and then eventually I got knocked on the door because I was active in a lot of virtualization and user computing, Intune back in the days as well. We need somebody like you sharing knowledge with them for a company, which was a startup called Avis Logics. And Avis Logics is a profile management solution in Azure Virtual Desktop and now Windows 365 as well, on the background with User Experience Sync, which is a version in Windows 365 Frontline Share. And pretty much joined that company, and in a year Microsoft acquired that company, and that was kind of a special moment in my career because you kind of present and you work hard and you have fun with the team, and then eventually you get kind of that, oh, Microsoft is buying your company, and you're like, on one side you're super proud and you're happy, but on the other side, like, this company, what's going to happen? Is this team still there? Are we I don't know, is it getting kind of sucked into the bigger kind of Microsoft machine, right? And sometimes you feel that, but the reality is that we landed in a team that was building the next rocket ship in Microsoft, which was the Azure Virtual Desktop product team. So they needed like that profile part because that was a big gap into the core stack of the product. And we kind of naturally folded into that product. And we were like just 30, 35 people as part of that startup. And we embraced kind of the product management group. The first year, we had a role as an incubation SE, so it was called a global black belt. Having a lot of jokes when I presented what the role is, showing like a black belt, kind of a ninja picture or something like that. But pretty much we were operating with like 6 people over the whole kind of world, enabling customers with their Azure Virtual Desktop implementation. And that was kind of accumulation, like a combination of all the things I've been doing before that, but then as part of Microsoft and a new product. And that was the moment I started to realize that I wanted to become a product manager. I want to be kind of more in the core and kind of be that. Sometimes they say you're the CEO of your product or the CEO of your feature. I kind of wanted to be part of that. Okay, when to decide which feature needs to go in, or as well, like that layer of, hey, you have that idea, you talk with the customer, and you learn, hey, this customer is facing these challenges, that you can kind of act directly on that and actually build that part into the product directly too. And that always has been so fascinating to me. So back in 2019, I got the option to become a product manager, principal product manager, to start building Windows 365 from scratch. And that was really a unique opportunity for me because it's not quite often that you get an opportunity to build a product from 0 to 1. It's really remarkable on how different a product from 0 to 1 is to like a feature in an existing product and ship that from like 1 to 2 or from 2 to 3, for example, in terms of these layers. So joining that journey back in 2019, and then COVID kicked in and it stopped kind of the world. And I think everyone that watched this, and yourself as well, everyone has some memories of COVID, good, bad things. But I think what we all realized is that technology and work doesn't have to be all physically in one room or in one office. You can basically work everywhere. And if you have the discipline and the right mindset, you can basically work from a train and be as productive as working in the office behind your personal desk. And that was really the moment the product Windows 365 Azure took off like in rapid fire. Like, hey, all these businesses that have physical PCs in the office have been sent back home, and they all had to all of a sudden need a virtual machine to log on to from their personal laptop or desktop they have at home. Because from a security lens, you're not going to roll that device into Intune, regardless of whether it's a home or a professional device. That's just not like secure. So from that lens, the role that I accepted as a product manager for Windows 365 came at the right time because COVID kicked in, and Azure Virtual Desktop was way too complex for many businesses because it required that VDI expertise that like Citrix and another like set of players in this field that have been around for 20, 30 years have been kind of requesting, and it created that separate team of VDI expertise that all we needed, and of course license and all these things as part of that too, to now become part of the Microsoft core. And then AVD was still there, but then the Windows 365 product was completely infused and unified inside Microsoft Intune, which is just a remarkable evolution of the virtualization stack inside a management console that pretty much everybody that does endpoint management these days and comes from SCCM or config manager embraces and knows about, but then without the need for virtualization and stitching that all together. So that was right moment, right time, and really democratizing the virtualization industry a little bit with that product. But then, of course, realizing that customers use various products out there. They use like Citrix, they use other players there, they use Kerberos still, they use all kinds of tech, right? And realizing that customers, it's not like a one-stop shop going there. You also need to kind of help them as they are in certain situations that are forced by compliance or policies in the company, or maybe the government forces certain companies to be in a certain spot or in a certain data center, or data sovereignty, data cannot leave the cloud, to eventually really help embracing that and see how we can build the AVD and Windows 365 product stack together as one solution as well. And I think Azure Virtual Desktop Hybrid that just was released like a couple months ago is a great example of how we now support part of the suite as well on-premises workloads from a compliance performance perspective into the stack. And ever since I've been part of building incubation projects as part of Windows 365, Windows 365 Link, the device purpose built for Cloud PC, has been one of my incubation projects, and various more. The Windows app previously was called the Windows 365 app. I still remember Satya being on stage at Ignite 2022 announcing that feature. So various parts of the product I've been touching, and really with the team has been a great journey, still a great journey. But lately, I've been responsible for our AI and user strategy, AI-enabled cloud PCs, Windows 365 for agents as well, and as well like kind of that storytelling part around the product, translating customer today versus customer to tomorrow. And that's, I think, where like this topic really shines, like where we move from like AI with manual clicks and interaction with computers to more like AI, agentic AI workloads with computer using agents, as well as how the IT management part is going to work in the future. So yeah, a little bit of history about myself has been a great journey, but I feel that we're still in the beginning stages of a next big revolution with AI. So can't wait to see some of the questions coming in, and
definitely. And the first of all, I loved how the experience that you gained from past 20 years shaped everything for you, and now you have this mindset that how to manage and also help to shape the new management era of the any kind of organizations in any sizes. And if you want to say, because my experience also is coming from, let's say, past 20 years, so I remember those days that we have a lot of ClickUps, a lot of manual process that we need to make and be able to create a safe, reliable environment. Also be sure that we have any kind of management system that is pretty much fixed for any kind of organization, or we had to manually somehow shape it in the best way. But nowadays, it's completely different. When we are talking about managed devices, now we have a lot of options like Intune, Azure. We have a lot of options to be able to apply different policies. And now we have AI on top of that. So let's say when we are talking about AI, as the person, if I just keep myself as an example who is working from past 20 years, and I have had those days that's been working a lot manual with the IT aspects of any kind of project or any organizations, how AI is shaping management of the devices or any kind of management of the devices nowadays, Christiaan? How is going to help us?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I think it's on various levels. Like how we interact with our computers, how we interact with our, let's say, portal, Intune, or management consoles, maybe use partner solutions, is all going to change. And there's, of course, within change, there's, of course, the layer of how fast is it actually useful. And I think AI products sometimes fall in the trap of it's being created just because it's AI. And AI is not much different than how you treat other challenges and problems in your life. Like, and you know this probably as well, like even goes 10, 20 years back, when you did as an IT professional, you did an action manually and you did it then again, then you started to think, hey, how can I automate this, right? And that's the same with kind of AI. AI is just an easier way to make it more approachable, to do many things or create things at once without actually having the knowledge. So it's kind of that, let's say your PhD that you normally have to train yourself on for 5 or 10 years is now easily just approachable via M365 Copilot, or you can use Claude or other tools like OpenAI's GPT's kind of service. And you can just approach that and pull data out of it, but as well create data based on the knowledge you have and get to the point where you want to be without actually going to somebody else for asking for it. And that's just remarkable, like in terms of how much impact you can have as one person versus normally you have to knock on this door or go to your network of people that know more than you do and get things done. And then going back to your question on the management layer, what I really feel is that like, for example, going in Intune or going in another product and opening up their AI kind of, let's say, side panel and kind of AI assistant, the real benefit of that is that you can correlate many things at once and bring your data all together to make a decision faster based on like data that is there versus an opinion. And you can correlate like, hey, I have this policy and I want to implement it to these set of desktops, whether it's a cloud PC or an endpoint in Intune. You can now all of a sudden press test and validate before the policy lands on the desktop what actually will happen. And I think everyone can kind of recall or remember some scenarios of, hey, you push on apply this policy, it rolls out to like maybe thousands of endpoints, and then all of a sudden these users cannot work anymore, or they have issues performance wise, or they get prompts or errors, or the device starts to boot or reboot, like all these things to just be more effective with a tool set infused by AI is one of the biggest impacts I see happening right now. So you can really be smarter with just one person using AI versus a whole team. So the impact you have as just one person versus a group of people overlooking the whole stack is, I think, one of the most remarkable ones, next to, of course, creating data policies or scripts. Like you can create scripts with AI that you normally have to write yourself for days and then test it and validate it versus just prompting, hey, create this script in PowerShell for me. And then eventually you loop it in as a proactive remediation action in Intune, for example. And that are just some of the things that I think are easy to grab, the low-hanging fruit kind of opportunities in this age of AI from a management lens. But I think the next wave would be that you can instruct agents as becoming kind of a copy of yourself. So see it as like a digital worker, an IT professional as digital worker concept, as an agentic user that still allows you to do things in control. So you're still kind of, hey, I know what that agent is doing. But if you're fine with it and you know the agent is completely configured in a secure way, that you can also say to the agent, hey, go do your thing and analyze this on a reoccurring basis and just have me stepping out and report back kind of on a daily basis what's kind of going on in the environment. And that's the whole kind of agentic AI agents kind of work that's coming in this space, and where I'm just super excited about, because it can help you on all these small things that you know as an IT professional. It's just like repetitive work. You kind of know where to click, but it's like, hey, I have this this list of things I need to do today, but this is the things that keep the lights on in my business. But you know what to do, and you have to do it, because if you don't, you know that, hey, your CEO or CIO or CTO is calling you and saying, hey, this is right now the most important thing you need to do right now. And you're like, well. So that is
Yeah,
a big
exactly.
part of impact. I feel that agents and AI will definitely help. The problem, I think, what I see more, and you probably has experience in this as well, is like the more what you don't know, you don't know. So it's kind of, if you don't know AI can do this, and you're not having that mindset of like learn it all and try it out, and then it's like sometimes like, no, this is not useful for me. And then it's more like a gap of the knowledge versus the actual that capability of the agent, what it can do. And that also applies to the end user. So the end user is the same from hey, using, and I sometimes compare it with Office 365, like back in 2004 to 2017, 16, Office 365 went through a complete, like Office went through a complete evolution, or let's
Yeah.
say revolution, of moving Office to the cloud and really make that more like a cloud service and connect them with each other. And there was a moment there that I think right now in this age of AI is also needed, is the adoption and governance piece, like explaining users how to use AI, when to use it, and how to change their existing process to the process of tomorrow, where the AI is infused in the way how you do your creation of documents and interacting with your computer using Windows, using File Explorer in a different way, using features like Click to Do in Windows to kind of extract text and actions and create data out of that, or translate knowledge inside Windows to, or from like Portuguese to English with a model on the back that does it for you directly as a call center employee. I think that are all kind of examples of things that are there, they are ready, but people don't know yet. So it's kind of the technology is there, but the business not yet. And that's, I
Yeah.
think, right now one of the biggest challenges. That is a great opportunity for people out there that want to go after that and create videos like this video to help people to train on how to use it. Because yeah, it's no longer a limit anymore. It's more like yeah, the part of the process, the habit of the specific user.
Exactly. Basically, we can call it, it's going to be a kind of AI culture for any kind of organization or any single individual that they are going to work with that. Uh, okay, so first of all, let's back one step, because we have a lot of audience with different, expertise, or they are pretty much new in this era. First of all, I would like to get some information from you. What is the meaning of device management? Because we have a great tool called Intune, which is basically the main tool to be able to manage the devices. But if you want to briefly explain what is the managed device or some kind of device management in Intune, and how it's going to combine and have this great tool as AI to help us to somehow improve our process in our organization, how it does work, what is that exactly? And then just let us know, because you have explained a lot around the IT side, the like experts that we are, that basically we are doing that kind of changes configuration like every day. It saves a lot of time, and basically we can replicate ourselves to do a lot of things. How about from user perspective, the end user, how is going to be look like for them, how much they are going to be basically, or let's say, used this kind of revolution in the future?
Yeah, that's great two questions. So let me start with the first. So I don't think in the age of AI, the security boundaries and the reasons why your device needs to be managed are changing that much. It's more the way how you make sure they are secure. So for example, either an Intune or the vendor or security copilot, you can make the configuration of your endpoints much easier in a secure way, versus you go down the internet, search for a bunch of blogs, and then kind of create your own security baseline, and then based on that you implement it. I think that whole process of doing that manually can be completely streamlined, and the ongoing changes of that too. So imagine you're like updating from Windows 11 24 H2 to 25 H2, and of course soon as well the newer versions, that you normally have to go into your security baseline and then add the new parts or re-evaluate kind of what's going on when you apply that, and make sure that your corporate applications don't affect by the security policies. So that's always the kind of balance between security and, of course, the usability and the experience of the end user. You want to kind of keep them both in the right balance. I feel that that's completely going to be automated and run by AI, by autonomous agents. And that step as you as an IT professional to check in and do that manual activity, that will be completely gone. I think the question, however, autonomous versus they call it human in the loop, meaning you're kind of still in control in the middle, and you can kind of take control and hijack yourself, kind of, or parachute into the AI kind of workflow, let's say it like that. It's still very important. I don't feel that customers, companies are ready yet to kind of go full autonomous mode. And you kind of see that a little bit on the news and the sentiment. And sometimes, and that's the fascinating thing, if you work for a big company versus being part of a company in kind of in the wild as an enterprise or a small medium business company. Sometimes that kind of where like an enterprise big company is right now versus where a Microsoft or an Anthropic or another company is right now, there's like a big gap in between for some enterprises. And Copilot is well accepted, and I feel it's there, but I still feel that a lot of end users are not embracing it yet enough to be effective on what they can do with AI as they normally would do. And I think for some extent that's okay if many people don't use AI, because then the other person in that team is also not using AI. So the pace of that team is kind of the same. But I do feel if you're like very entrepreneurial driven and you want to kind of grow in your career and you want to kind of be more effective and do more with less and all these things that apply as part of that, you can have a great advantage right now using AI as an end user as part of your day job, and create docs and things and summarize data or create a presentation or automate tasks in Outlook, prioritize email responses based on AI and metrics you put in there, create meeting invites, completely automated, all these things coming together puts you in a spot that you can theoretically build a team of people around you without actually having to be a manager with people reporting up to you, or at least not as many as you normally would need to have. And I think that's kind of going back to the second question you have. I feel that, and it depends really per country. So there's research from IDC, Gartner, and other players out there, and MIT did a study recently as well that like in the US, India, and Asia are the highest adoption of AI right now, and parts in Europe or other parts in South America and Africa, it's lower. And some is a little cultural driven, of course, but some is as well, more based on some of the culture of that business not being frontier firm ready. So not embracing the culture of change. And we kind of seen that a little bit with the move to SaaS as well, like from like on-premises to cloud. There was some resistance of change in the beginning as well, but at some point, customers embraced cloud and SaaS as like, we go straight in versus first wait for 10, 20, or 30 different other customers in the vertical, especially finance customers, to do it first, and then we will be the last in line to adopt, because that kind of is the remark that it is safe to be like, hey, being the first and cutting edge on, hey, let's try it out. And I see that with AI as well happening a little bit, but not as like as how it happened with cloud, move to cloud to from on-prem or from PaaS to SaaS, let's call it like that. But I feel that is coming up rapidly. Like soon you will see Agent 365 being released in GA, which is, as you know, the orchestrator for agentic AI agents, agent builders out there to really orchestrate in a secure way the kind of collection, library, marketplace of MCP servers and as well agents that are out there in a way that it's kind of, if you look at like an Intune management plane, it looks a little bit with Agent 365 to the agents the same way as Intune looks at from the endpoint side, from an orchestration perspective, but then for agent builders and agentic workloads. And I think that's a new like evolution of that concept, to help customers to adopt that faster, but also to introduce new concepts of digital worker, agentic ID, kind of
Yeah.
authentication levels, or a new kind of RBAC permissions that can gate like what the workload can be, because that's the security risk, of course. Like if we talk about computer using agents, for example, it's like mimicking or kind of having a kind of an agent doing the user interactions of keyboard and mouse with an LLM, and then of course an orchestrator in between that kind of does the correlation of it and the actions. But what if that, I don't know, what if you would be a local administrator, or you have permissions, global administrator, or you have permissions to XYZ application in your business that have, I don't know, finance like numbers of your quarter that cannot be revealed yet, and
Yeah.
there's something kind of a prompt injection happening, and then the coup has taken over by a hacker, and
Yeah.
then yeah, everything is being done like as a robot. Like it reminds me a little bit of keyloggers back in the days,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
um,
Exactly. Yeah. Sounds the same. So this is, I believe this one is going to be simple, tricky, and fun question. So,
I love
uh,
it.
yeah. So when we are talking about AI, because the things that you explain, it's for me, it's a like dream world to have everything up and running, working with AI. It's the best situation that users can use this environment in a very, let's say, AI based manner. But you speaks a lot about the security. And now we are talking about AI and security, which is when I'm talking to some users or some customers or some people, they are saying, do you really trust AI? Because nowadays we are talking about vibe coding, spec coding, and then we have AI in security, we have AI on phone, TV, everywhere. We have AI everywhere right now. But now we are talking about managed device, which means I am going to have AI which is going to manage my device, and I'm going to have a lot of feature on top of that. So when we are talking about security, what is the security guardrail for these kind of services that we can basically trust it somehow?
Yeah, that's well, I think that's probably the number one topic or number one item in CIOs, CTOs' mind right now as well. Like, how can I make sure that this wave of agents is not creating a hole in my environment? Let's call it like that. That can all of a sudden behaves as a human and pulls data as a human, but then with bad intentions on the background. So I think first thing that what we will see happening, which is already in the works, is that agentic ID user kind of identity approach of changing the way how we have been, yeah, configuring and controlling and managing end users from an user identity perspective. So right now in Windows, you have a standard user and you have an administrator, local administrator. It's kind of administrator and you're local, but you kind of attach that with an Entra account, and then the Entra is local administrator. We all know how it works because it's kind of going back to the Kerberos days even. So what's going to happen is that in Windows, is there's a new identity kind of version of the standard user being created as kind of a digital worker concept. So it's a copy of that, and then it allows you to have that user being logged on to either your Windows PC, but it could be as well like the Copilot security console, or it goes directly in there over like an API level service via the Agent 365 offering. But the core thing, what is happening there, is that it allows you via agentic gateways and RBAC permissions to funnel the permissions to be exactly what that agent workload needs to do. Meaning that if that agent workloads needs to change policies in Intune, then that's the only thing that agent can do. It's the same in Windows. If that agent only is allowed to do that specific ask or task in your line of business application, it funnels that and allows that user only to do that, and the rest is just blocked. and there is a protection layer involved there that can analyze as well bad behavior of that session. So that's all in the works, and it's called agentic ID users from a technical level perspective in Entra. There's a whole team working on that. And the other part of the more like, let's say, GTM kind of brand terminology is called the digital worker concept. So imagine that you go to LinkedIn and you see like a job offering open. Normally, you would apply for that job offer, and then you add your resume or you just link to your LinkedIn, and then eventually you get a conversation to interview, and then you're hired, your account is being created, and then you start your workday, and then you wait for your laptop to show up, and those things, right? It's like a little bit the usual way of enrolling into a business. Imagine that being, you still go to LinkedIn, and then you apply for a role, but that role is pretty much you as a person need somebody with that experience, and that ends up being a digital worker. So it's
Yeah.
a non-human user, let's say it like that, and you kind of bring that expertise in, but it's pretty much an agent being built by a third-party vendor or an agent builder. There are a couple, like you have Tiny Fish, Monis, GenSpark. There are many of these agent builders out there that build specific agents. You have UiPath that are very trained on specific workloads. So it's kind of you hire a person that has been 20 years of experience in this, let's say this finance industry, to now hire an agent, and then that agent is getting infused inside your business via directly LinkedIn, the agentic users. And then as well, kind of the hiring process and everything is completely automated, and it ends up being a user that is attached to you as a, yeah, as an employee, as a digital worker, as like normally you would build a team and a person in that team to report up to you. And I feel that that's kind of the next wave of how I feel agents are going to change and be actually very useful and secure as well, versus, hey, you need to build it yourself, or you need to go to I don't know, M365 Copilot and start creating an agent there, to be more a catalog of different agents that are built specifically on the need of the workload. And then you can talk with, of course, still Copilot to have actions done. But I feel that the way how to interact with these agents becomes more human. So imagine that we are in this call, and this would be a Teams call, and your agent worker, digital worker dials in, and you can just talk with that person. And on the background, it's some LLM that iterates and correlates with the backend services and the permissions that a user has, and then eventually makes the work happen that you asked that digital worker to do. And I think that's the part that some people feel that's far off, like that's an episode in the Matrix or Black Mirror, or I don't know. There are many of these movies, right? Like
Yeah.
iRobot. There are probably a couple more to actually being possible right now, and even easier, because that's
Yeah.
the beauty of the M365 and Agent 365 stack. It infuses inside your existing products, and that's, I think, the need as well to drive adoption, because otherwise you have that gap, right? Like
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah. Before I ask another question, people that you are in the live stream, you are always welcome to send your questions. I already have several questions from some people, but you can ask your question. I will forward it to Christian directly, so we can continue this conversation based on your questions as well. But okay, so there is one good question here. You speaks about the agents, the roles that we can assign. We can have more agents than more people to do the actions. So the tricky question is here, how is going to be feature? How many people is going to be laid off? Because now we are talking AI that is going to be taking care of many, many tasks. And if we want to avoid that, for example, Said is being part of those kind of feature that it's not available for Said because Said doesn't know enough AI things around that or never learned about AI. What should Said do to avoid this kind of situation, to have something in the future? Because if I want to add my comments, maybe it's a bit harsh, but doesn't basically not knowing about AI is like avoiding to learn about internet. So this is my comments. I know it's pretty much harsh, but this is the feature. This is what exactly we need to learn. But from your perspective, when we are talking about this kind of situation, how do you see the feature?
Yeah, no, spot on question again. I think the like layoff kind of situation and such, like you can have an opinion about these things, of course, in general, but I feel in the reflection of you having digital workers reporting up to you, and of course, I don't know, sometimes in a project you need knowledge in stage one, but in stage two you don't need it anymore. So then,
Yes.
what I feel is happening is that your agent is just being consumed for that time. See it a little bit as a consultant that works on an hourly base. Of course, you depends on your role, but like as I told you, I've been a consultant myself like 15 years ago. And then you operate the same way, right? You jump in, you solve the challenge, and you go to another company to do something else or the same, but then for another company that has different type of challenges and products. And I see that the same happening with this is you have your digital worker concept of hiring people or knowledge, but then you pay for that agent only the time for when you consume it, and then you push it back into either a pool for different knowledge in your company or tenant. But I feel it becomes more orchestrated from an agent 365 side. So you have a library of agents, you can maintain that as an IT professional. So you as a company can say, hey, these are the 5 kind of type of agents that have this knowledge that I kind of provide to my organization. And then anything beyond that is blocked. And then you can pull that in and attach that to you and then use that and then push it back. And that, yeah, of course, it's like reassigning knowledge for a digital worker, and it's a digital user. So there's not something such as the concept of layoff there. It's more like
Okay.
rearranging kind of the kind of configuration, just like you, I don't know, in teams you have as well. Sometimes you have these groups and then you add people in your V team. And then sometimes if your V team, I don't know, you pull somebody in that has this knowledge, you pull that person in, you ask, hey, do you know this? And then the person answers the question, and then you remove that person from that group, right? And I think that's the same with these agents. You just keep pulling them in, and based on the configuration, you as an IT professional, it happens in a secure way. But as a user, you can kind of tag these agents just in teams or put them into meetings and then pull the data out of it. And then your agentic user account, kind of your agentic user ID, is kind of the way to do that, not on your own credentials, because you still want to be manually interacting with your computer. You still want to go in that portal that you have been using as an IT professional, and you still want to be capable to decide as your own brain can think whether you want to click here or there or give somebody permissions. But you don't want to have your digital worker, kind of your copy of yourself, do that kind of same thing, because you want to be in control of that. So I think that will be probably the shift in terms of how knowledge and agents are being assigned and deassigned, removed, versus you as a physical user still being in charge of all these agents that are doing work for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the exciting part too, because it's the same with sometimes I compare it a little bit with back in the days, music was created with a band and you had physical instruments and you needed to be in a studio all together to create music. And right now you can just pop up your laptop and create like a song with software. And that made the whole music industry completely change on it, much more approachable for you to learn and use that software to create a whole song with just a computer in front of you. And I feel the same is happening with like somewhat of AI right now, and the knowledge you normally would need to be impactful to, for example, build a whole company or a software product. And that's the part where I think the moment you realize you can be very successful as a person in this time of AI, that you kind of find the bits and pieces to combine the things you know and you don't know to eventually make it happen. And normally you would hire a team of people with expertise in order to build something. And that's the part that I feel that the faster you realize how that works, the more impactful and faster you can make change happen in your company. And it's the same, like if you're using like I have a notepad here. I'm not using it actually, but if you write down notes of things that your brain cannot remember,
Yes,
imagine that you never have to write notes anymore, because AI
exactly.
remembers what you previously was searching for, or based on the prompt, it can fill in the gaps that you normally have to write down in order to remember. And I think that's the exciting part, because replacing AI by your notepad or the things that you kind of build over the years to make sure you remember what you don't know
Yes.
anymore. I think that's the part. Yeah, it's just remarkable, because even like school systems and things like that might change because of this.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
if you
I
are good
expect
in
that.
math or in, I don't know, physics or things like that, if you can just ask directly, or talk with an AI, and have that coming back, you can ask yourself the question, why you then still need to know it. I think the part that is very important here is that you still need to overlook, kind of, and correlate and validate whether what comes out of that is relevant. And that's the risky part too, sometimes I feel. But I think that's the part of, you still, like, if you're like, it's the same with like being a manager and having a team and building a product. The manager still needs to know about the product, because if the manager doesn't know about the product, then you're not in control of your own destiny as a team. And that's the
True.
part I feel that
Yeah,
is super important, like
it is
that you
important.
still need knowledge, but not as deep as you normally would do, in order to build something, or sketch something
That's
out,
really
or have a brainstorm session.
Yeah, that's really true. First of all, Christian, I love how you bring band music as an example, because it pretty much makes sense for those people that they need to understand what is happening around that. But your answer leads us to another question, which is related to things that you already mentioned it several times. Also, it's very interesting part of AI. I always writing article around that, talking to people around that. I'm talking to all the customers that is the really necessary part of having any kind of AI project that is going to start, is related to the strategy and preparation. So you mentioned that there is a gap between what industry or big companies like Microsoft releasing the services. They are pretty much front of everything, let's say, and we have a lot of features, we have a lot of AI tools, but definitely we don't have that much adoption around that right now. So if I want to consider an organization that is going to be somehow adopt themselves, not now, of course, I'm talking about next 3 months, 4 months, or a year, what is the steps to be prepared for that dream board that we just talked about it? What is the requirements and what should be considered as the strategy to have be ready for that kind of dream board that we explain it right now?
Yeah, it really depends on what kind of business or vertical you're active in. Of course, like application X could be completely different to application Y for a company that is active in finance industry versus in the retail business, right? Like, so I think that's the overarching difference, perhaps, to my answer. But I think the first thing you need to find is, where can AI help solving something that has been a big kind of task or a manual task, but it's not very rewarding or useful from an impact perspective. Like, for example, I've been talking a couple of weeks ago with a retail firm. I will not call it the name, but they are active in the retail business. They have an e-commerce website of selling clothes, like some jeans and things like that. And they were like doing manual comparison of competition, meaning that there's a company that does the same, and they go 10% lower in price as they change their price as well. So it's like that competition. If you search for, I want to buy shoes or jeans, then you find one that's cheaper there. and then you want to kind of go for the cheapest, but the company wants to kind of maybe go lower as well so they don't lose the customer. So they were like doing that manually in Excel. So they were like creating rows of company X, Y, Z, and then the whole stack of kind of there's sort of like the different products and things like that. And then they had like people, interns or like more junior people doing that manually. And this is like a perfect example of where like
Makes sense.
AI and model can kind of infuse and kind of correlate that, but also create the hook into websites and potentially use a computer using agent that does a browser-based detection of the website. And every like 5 or 10 minutes, or maybe every hour, it goes, set up that session, check that website, correlate what's happening on the screen, and then pulls that back and compares it with 5 or 10 different other sites. And there you have your business case. Like you can kind of make that easier for people. You can do it remotely. You can do it 24/7 as well. And it really makes AI useful because it kind of makes it more accurate, it makes it faster, and it kind of completely automates the process without like much knowledge, coding needed or things like that on the background. And I think that's just an example of how AI can become useful because as I said before, AI is not built for just the sake of AI. AI is built for creating new data or connect an existing process to an LLM. And then therefore the existing process knows things faster, better, and then communicates that back to the process and then can automate it. So it's kind of the AI or Gen AI component of an LLM or an SLM that is new, but the automation layer and the actions is something we have been doing for a while. So it's kind of the decision making or creation and correlation that comes as part of that that makes it like really unique. And that's where like MCP and agents like really come in as part of, hey, you have an existing business, you have an existing product. And some products like SAP or Salesforce, they are like super AI savvy, and they are like already having their product completely lined up with like AI and MCP, and you can hook that into existing agents and kind of correlate that. But I think if you're like looking for adoption and making sure that users are making it part of their habit and don't think about it anymore and just use it as they normally would click through windows or use applications, left click, up top or hand corner, things like that, is to find the part of the process that can actually feel useful for them. It solves something versus it's just another thing on the wall, as well as tell it in a certain way that it feels that it helps them versus it takes away things that would make their role, for example, not useful anymore in the future. I feel that's the kind of thing that sometimes is the overarching feeling around AI, and I feel that that's not the case, or it should not be the case. But it's all part of that mindset of learn it all, and if you notice, you go to another thing and learn that and do that and expand your scope or change your scope. And that's the part I feel that's happening right now, is that the things that used to be something you knew and somebody else doesn't know is changing more to become like an AI that can help you doing that. But then it doesn't mean that you are replaced by an AI. It just means you need to kind of create more like a collection of things you can do and use an AI to do it faster at a bigger scale. So there's a lot of opportunity there to infuse AI into existing users' habit in a genuine and human way, of course, and then as well create new careers as part of that as well. Like when we moved to the cloud, people thought as well that the cloud is taking away all the IT professional jobs, and I think in fact it has been growing and it still grows as well. So like the resistance of change versus the embracing change and learn and really be the first of the many to come after, I think is a huge opportunity out there that many people don't really realize. That's for the grabs. It's just laying there because people want to provide change and they need help. And if you're the person that has that knowledge and can guide other people through, that's a winner ingredient here.
Exactly. Very nice answer. Okay, good. We have several minutes left, but let's jump to the question that I've got. Some of them are pretty much fun. Some of them is, I believe, we already answered. But let's start with the first one. What's one? Let's see. Yeah, what's one moment where you genuinely thought, "Okay, I just made my job easier"?
Yeah, well, various things. So it depends which type of role I have to fulfill. But looking at like product management, for example, I think what I will or what I see, what I do as part of my day job, what I will see as changes product management over time is the way how we create prototypes and reflect user feedback or customer feedback directly into the product. Normally, that has been you start with like a vision and you write the vision down into a strategy paper or vision paper, framing memo or PRFAQ. There are different ways of doing it, but it all comes down to the same. You write something down that you think the future should look like. And then as part of that, you start to kind of create your strategy. So the vision is where you want to be, strategy is how to get there. And then you start writing that down, and then you kind of bring in all these teams of like UX and design slash dev and do costing, planning, all these things. That process is like it's like up for a change with AI, and I already live and breathe that. And what is like really effective? How I use that is I go and like for example GitHub Copilot or Claude Code. I use Claude Code and Claude very often these days myself. I love the Sonnet and the new models out there, and that allows me to imagine you're on the lookout and you see something being announced and you like that, but you don't want to copy it. You want to learn from how other people are doing it. So normally you get influenced or you get inspired, but what if you go in with your kind of vision and you have something that you want to move to and you put it in and you kind of vibe code your way to a prototype and get it ready and it looks actually pretty cool, like how you want it to be, and you skip like all these three layers of going through that process, writing it down, go to the UX team, knock on their door, and then eventually you will not ship it. That's a waste of time that just happened there. It's of course not a waste of time from a learning perspective, but
Yeah.
with AI you can kind of completely do that automated without actually all these layers and interaction. So one of example is that I did an example of a prototype and I had a customer call under NDA and I shared that prototype with the customer. The customer loved it, created the feedback that I was looking for. I changed it afterwards directly based on the feedback. And then other customers were helped with that too. And then before you actually go into coding, you have a higher likely chance and risk, lower risk to find product market fit for your features than you
Mhm.
would normally shoot for. I don't know, you shoot for the moon and you
Yeah.
release
Yeah.
that public preview or GA, and then you hope that after you publish your blog release that you get a huge scale of adoption the day after or a couple weeks or months later. So that like early validation of product market fit and really that frontier narrative of trying things out together with the customer is part of that culture change. And I think customers, IT professionals need to embrace that. The time of defining upfront 6 months to 12 months how the product will look like is gone. It's like a fast iteration kind of life cycle that is happening right now. Of course, in a
Exactly.
mature way, in a scalable way, with quality insurance and policies in place. But yeah, the pace, the change, the way how to create products is completely changed with AI. It's faster. You can create products in hours slash months. So I feel that's part of my daily habit that I'm changing and I'm still changing. There are more tools, like I'm using Figma Make, for example, for creating mocks. But it could even be that at some point, like the LLM does that all together and it just throws the design directly back in, and you no longer have to switch between all these different like platforms anymore. And I think that's the, yeah, time will tell how that will happen, but I'm very excited about seeing that happening. And yeah, the sky is the limit here.
Yeah, exactly. Sky's the limit. Amazing. Good. So another question. Let's see. have you ever seen AI make a wrong decision in automation? What happened?
Here's a good question. Personally, I haven't. Well, I have, of course, various examples of, hey, I'm asking AI to do something, and then it hallucinates a little bit, and then I need to change the text in the doc or in a summary or in things like. But I'm not sure that's really bad. That's just, I don't know. That was the moment in time the model wasn't that trained well or didn't know as much information that it would need in order to create that data. I think the part that I've been seeing. That might be too soon, that happened too soon for the world to kind of embrace it, was like, for example, a feature like Windows Recall. I think we all have heard of that feature, which is kind of, the vision and the idea around it is great. It's really remarkable, but the implementation, how it was accepted, because customers or people were like, hey, I'm kind of having a camera on my face all the time, and I now need to start looking kind of what I'm doing. It's the same as when you're on the street and all of a sudden somebody comes with a big camera to you and starts recording you, and you're like,
Yeah.
you're getting a little bit that feeling of like, oh, I don't know what to say. And then that was a little bit what was happening as well with Recall. And of course, there were some other things that happened as well as part of that. But I think that was probably one of the examples of some of the tech and the AI went out too fast, where customers were still learning about the basics and what can it mean for me as a person or as an employee in my business, at my house, right? Like, you can use it as part of doing things for just your own household as well. And I think yeah, we've been seeing more, like, the before the iPhone came out, there was a project called General Magic. It's a documentary you can watch on YouTube. It was in I think it was 1992, but I could be wrong here. Somewhat in the early 90s. It was a pocket phone with a touch screen, and it was there, and they had a bunch of vision, and they had a bunch of kind of, let's say, there was a lot of like appetite for it as a sentiment, but once they shipped, nobody bought it, and then it died, and they went to the stock market and didn't got like the money in return, and then it bleeded to death. And the funny thing is that the team that created that product, like the hardware engineer, eventually moved to Apple and joined Steve Jobs' team and built the iPhone, the iPod, iPhone. It's Tony Fadell. He's a great person to follow on LinkedIn as well for AI news and things like that. But he yeah, he tells in the documentary the story that the General Magic device was just too fast. It was 10 years too fast for the generation, the people to embrace.
Yeah.
And then the iPhone happened and everybody loved it. And now, I don't know what the exact numbers, but billions of phones out there that actually are being used on a daily basis. And I feel that's the same with some of the technology you see with AI. Some shoot for the next big thing, and the idea is great. The challenges are great that are being solved, but it might feel too fast for some companies because, yeah, you still have the things you need to, yeah, keep the lights on for,
Yeah.
and eventually your revenue model, like, you build a business because you have a core business, which could be like in a retail business selling stuff to end users, and yeah, transforming your internal processes could affect as well sometimes your business. So the right balance between change versus keeping the business flowing, I think is one of the hot topics these days. And I feel finding something that feels useful but not too disruptive to start with is probably the right approach, and carve out small pieces of the workflow to start trying things
Yeah.
out, and don't wait too long for doing that. I think that's probably the best thing to do, and every business or every person is different in that, but stimulate that. So giving users and people the platform to learn versus
Yes.
going yourself is also a good strategy to follow.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool. Uh, we don't have that much time. I still have several questions. Some of them are so fun. But since we need to wrap up this session, I'm going to close this session with asking the question that I normally ask speakers from the beginning of the session. But since we were talking about learning, understanding, and continuous learning process, so my question, the last question from you is, what is Microsoft Learn role in this industry, specifically for AI, and why Microsoft Learn is really important to be followed by the learners, and what they can achieve by basically using Microsoft Learn like day to day?
Yeah, learning is going to change the way how you go to your learning. Let's say content and knowledge is going to change, meaning that now you go to the Learn page and look it up and scroll through it. But in the future, you go to Copilot or another interface, and then you prompt, and then on the background, the databases are being pulled from the internet, and then still the data is being created based on what's on Learn. But the interface on how to learn it is going to change. So it could be an AI, it's going to change or create a document, and then it pulls data from Microsoft Learn because that's the best data, because that's the documentation coming directly from the product. So what I will see is that learning is always important. Constant learn is something we all should embrace if we don't do that yet. But the way how we learn is going to change. So for example, you no longer have to read the whole manual yourself and learn and remember and then click through it, or maybe do side by side, but have an AI clicking through it for you or automating it for you. And that's a little bit, I think, in a benefit for us as people, not needing to learn everything at once anymore, but knowing the things you need to know, when to use the AI versus when to use your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Then, yeah, it was really nice. Thank you so much, Christiaan. We learned a lot, and we are going to expect a lot of cool things during this year and maybe beginning of the next year. We are going to experience a new modern AI environment, I believe so. And then we maybe can have more session together with you and learn more in deep of the technical side of these scenarios around the NTO management devices and so on. And then you can show us a lot of interesting things around the technical side of that. So with that said, again, thank you so much. Is there any kind of last word that you would like to share with audience?
No, I only want to say, go try it out, get your hands dirty with AI, because it's a lot of fun to do as well.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, that you joined this session. And also, if you're watching the recorded version of that, make sure that you're following us on all the platforms that we have. We recently also added Twitch. So basically now we have YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, and also the StreamYard as the main source of the live streams. And make sure that you are following Christiaan on LinkedIn and also Microsoft Security Europe pages. And then we are going to have a lot of other exciting sessions around the other type of the Microsoft cloud and on-premise ecosystem. So with that said, take care and hope to see you soon in the next session. Bye for now.